Hey everyone, welcome to the Microsoft 365 Copilot Connection. My name is Nick Harris, and I am a Senior Copilot Cloud Solution Architect with Microsoft. Today, I want to navigate all of you through a use case that I specifically have been working on with an HR focused audience. What I want to navigate you through is how to leverage the researcher agent to generate policies, and then take those policies and transform them into facts guides. This is actually a lot easier these days now when it comes to SharePoint specific pages and the new facts web part that we are rolling out now to our customers at this time. Now, of course, many of you most likely are not creating policies. However, the information within this video will still be relevant to show you the overall process of writing, generating, modifying content, and then transforming it into different forms so you can post those publicly within your SharePoint environment or within additional Word documents, so on and so forth. So let's hop right on into the use case. Now, for the sake of our use case, we're going to focus on generating a remote work policy using current modern standards today. This is the particular prompt that I will leverage to generate my remote work policy. So you can see here I'm acting as a senior HR policy architect. And I'm not going to really read the entire prompt, but you can pause the video and take a look. Let me scroll down a little bit as well here. And there we go. That's the entirety of the prompt that we will run. And where we're going to start is with the researcher agent. Now, I want the researcher agent to generate this very detailed, highly informative policy document for us that we can then take and transform into a Word file for reference purposes. So let's go ahead and take this prompt over to the researcher agent. Now, for those of you who may be new to our community, if you've never seen the researcher agent before, I highly recommend you check out some of our previous videos on the researcher agent. It should be available to you via your organization over on the left-hand side under the All Agents category, if your IT administrators have made it available. So let's go ahead and submit this prompt and see the researcher agent live. All right, so we have our policy, very rich and detailed, and of course, we would want to read and review and verify all of the information included to ensure that it aligns to our organizational context and the way that our policies need to be formed for our organizational requirements. In this case, let's just imagine I reviewed those key details. I'll send it over to a Copilot page now so I could further modify the actual textual data. So, having scrolled down to the very bottom of the researcher output, we'll click on the Edit in Pages option here, and we'll send all of that data to a Copilot page. Now, you'll notice that the researcher output has been slightly updated. The researcher now provides imagery, key data points aligned to sections of information directly in its output. So we see here workforce flexibility, hybrid model adoption, retention boost, cost of poor policy. Those are key things that maybe we want to include. Probably not so much since it's deeper research, quantitative data points, so on and so forth. There was a key issue with this. When I would send this data over to a Word document from the Copilot page, the image data would show up as HTML code. That should now be resolved in the export process to Word. So if any of you have encountered this before, the error should now be fixed. So we'll send this over to a Word document. I'll open in Word. This will then take all of that output and put it into a Word document directly saved within my OneDrive experience so I can make further modifications. Open in Word, and there we now see our full Word document. It does have the images directly aligned in the document. That didn't work before. This is a 29-page, 11,700 word document. And we can use Copilot in order to modify that language, the materials, and ensure that the policy meets our particular format requirements and language requirements before we move forward into the publishing process. Now, since this file is in our OneDrive, we're going to move it to the corporate structured document location where it should be stored, or our company HR policy site. In order to do this, I can very easily just click on File and Move File. This will bring up the file browsing experience that we make available in Microsoft 365. And you see here I have our company HR policy documents location. I will very easily move here. And now we have the policy centrally stored in our HR document location. Now, general note around this type of process, please ensure when you're moving policy documents around, if they are still in flux or any type of file that may correlate to this scenario for you, ensure that you're moving it to a location that is a collaborative location and not the true central source of policies. In this case, we don't want people in our org to go and find policies that are not fully up to date and published. Now I've moved over to the HR policy site, and we see in here there's the new remote work policy. Now what I want to show that's very new within the SharePoint environment is a brand new web part. Let's go ahead and create a new policy page for this HR remote work policy. So I've navigated to the home screen, I'm going to click on the new drop down, and let's create a brand new page. As you see in this SharePoint page creation experience, we have a ton of templates now available within SharePoint Online. I can still create from a blank page. I can create a private draft page only available to me as well. I can also select from all the wide variety of templates that we make available. Now, the purpose here is what we want to do. Maybe, for example, we've now published that HR policy document. Let's go ahead and generate a fax page. So I'll use this particular template. Now we've drafted our initial fax template SharePoint page, and we want to use the brand new Copilot web part that's actively being rolled out at this time. The fax web part currently in preview as you see here on the screen. This is currently being rolled out for targeted release users at this time and should be generally available within the next month or so. I'll add this particular web part to a brand new section within my fax page. And it's very simple and intuitive to use. We can click on the Get Started button, and we can directly leverage particular documents that we've worked with in the past to generate automated fax based on that document content. So here's our remote work policy. Let's select the remote work policy. Let's select our purpose as well. In this case, I'm going to select policy as a purpose. However, you also do have events and products or just general types of fax you may want to generate as well. Policy, there we go. We can also include any other additional details contextually for the AI to leverage. In this case, I'm just going to click on Start. Copilot then within this web part generates categories of information all aligned to that document content. So now we see here are our initial categories. I can also add manual categories within this particular experience if I so choose. So it doesn't have to be just aligned to the document content. I can do some things manually as well. Now, I've reviewed these categories. I do like them. I think that they would work for the type of fax that I want to generate. So I'll now draft questions aligned to that document content based on those categories. When we now draft the questions, Copilot is navigating back to that reference file and generating a list of questions for us. Now again, just like any AI experience, I would review all of these questions. I can also add manual questions within those categories. However, I have reviewed these questions, I do like them, and we want to generate answers for them. So I'll now click on the Draft Answers button. Copilot will then again go out to that document content that we're aligned to. It will pull all of the answer-based information aligned to those categories and those questions, and automatically provide answers for us. Now we've received our output and we have our answers, and we'll navigate through those to show all of you what they look like here in just a moment. However, I will also mention I had a slight hiccup as I filled all of this out with Copilot. You'll notice that some of these questions aren't answered. Questions such as, how is eligibility for remote work determined? Or what is the approval process for remote work arrangements? I think it's important to note that there are times where Copilot can experience issues, but there are also alternative ways that you can approach those issues by still leveraging Copilot functionality to automate your work. In this case, you'll see I have the question, but no answer. And if I click under that particular section in that question, I can leverage Copilot directly built within this text experience. I can click on the Copilot icon. What do you want Copilot to draft? I can reference that remote work policy document again, and I can prompt to use that document information to answer the question. So you see here, the question is, how is eligibility for remote work determined? And that's what I've included in my prompt. I've said, answer the following question based on data in the attached file. How is eligibility for remote work determined? I'll send this prompt off. Copilot then will reference that file, draft my content, and provide me its direct answer so I can insert that information directly under that question in that category. There we go. Now we review the response. We insert the answer if we do approve, or again, we could have made modifications and changes, and we're good to go. We can also move these questions around. We can pick their particular location as we need. We can directly edit the question. We can move it to a different category, delete the question out. Let's look at some of the other answers that were provided. We have our answers for work expectations. How should remote employees communicate schedule change? Technology and equipment. Everything is formatted very well within these sections of information too. Lots of bullet formats, also paragraph-based formats, very easy to read and consume. And finally, our compliance section. Lots of great information, lots of data. We can now take this particular page and save it in a draft form or publish it out if we are good to go. In this case, I'll just save the page. And there we go. We have our initial draft page with our remote work policy facts. I can now directly expand these categories, look at the questions under those categories, and then look at the particular answers within those questions per my needs. All with doing very minimal work within my process flow. So this new Facts webpart is going to be a game changer, allowing you to disseminate information via SharePoint pages across your organization. The ability to draft information, take it to Word, reference that data, and generate factual data in detail that we can then provide to our users creates benefit and value for all of us. So I recommend to all of you, if you have this webpart available, try it out, use it, see what it can do for you, and let me know in the comments section below the value it may provide in your use case. If you like this video, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up. Your support is always appreciated. Share with your colleagues and peers, or anyone that may benefit from this particular information. Subscribe if you're not already to join our community, and leave a comment in the comments section below if you have any additional questions. Thank you all so much for your time as always. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good one, everybody.